Welcome back to Argus After Hours.
I'm Emesha.
I'm Amanda.
And I'm Ellen.
We thought we'd answer some of these fabulous questions. You ready?
Yes.
How will our culture change in the next 100 years?
I think, well, personally, as long as it doesn't end up too much like that movie WALL-E, have you seen that? I'm okay with almost anything. I mean, I think we've got some really crazy new developments with technology, and we have to be so careful that because technology is this wonderful tool, but it's also this double-edged sword, and I think it can hurt us almost as much as it can help us, and I think that's something that I'd be most afraid of in the next 100 years. It's just technology.
Well, what if there were glasses that you could wear that interface with your eye and it was a computer screen? Oh wait, the future's here. Google Glasses. It's only getting worse. I don't like it. People are getting meaner. They're getting more impatient. ADD is on the rise because we don't have to commit to anything anymore. We can just open 20 tabs online and read the first paragraph of each of those things. We don't have to work to find out information, and I think that ultimately, in one way our standards are raising, and in another way we're getting way lazier, because there's a broader pool that we're being compared to when we write or when we make anything. We're being held to a higher standard, but it's also easier in a sense to draw on what other people have done.
I think what it's going to look like is something that we can hardly imagine. So, similarly to probably futuristic movies, but nothing quite like we've seen. Because technology has a way of developing in something that's sometimes predictable by sci-fi people, but sometimes it's not. And my dad used to tell me this story about this crazy man. People called him crazy because he used to say that chimneys would one day ride on wheels. Well, now we have cars, they have heaters. So an idea is not necessarily always something that's going to look like the first thing you picture. So I think it'll be very, very crazy and weird, but I think there'll be some element of machine and human coming together because in a lot of ways it's already happening. So
when I was a kid, I used to think really, really, really hard about a message that I wanted to send into my friend's head. I wanted that telepathic connection, and now I can just reach down and text them.
yeah.
That's crazy. It was a while back, but there was some sort of television show where around the world, I think it was in Korea, they actually have robot waiters in restaurants. They roll up to your table and it's all a touch screen, so you kind of punch in your order and it goes and it does it and it brings it back. That's crazy.
Yep. I hear they have receptionists too or something. I'm not sure if that's true.
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, so just crazy technology stuff. I also kind of wonder what'll happen in 100 years with the way we dress, because that's something that changes a lot over time too. And especially, we're all ladies here, especially when it comes to women's clothing. The way we dress has changed so much in the past 100 years. I can't even imagine what 100 years from now will be like.
Well, Lady Gaga wore normal clothes recently. I know. That means everyone else is going to start wearing raw meat or something.
Should we do the next question? So, if you could be a famous athlete for a single game, who would you be?
The one that wins all the time.
All I know about athletes is Elvis Stoico. So
You're stuck being Elvis.
yeah.
That's a hard one. I don't know much about sports either.
I see a little bit of Wayne in you.
Oh yeah, a hockey player?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll be Wayne Gretzky. That's
Okay.
cool with me.
I'll be Kobe Bryant.
Nice.
Tall, good at shooting hoops.
Well, you know, the only other thing I could think of would be like any sort of famous swimmer, because I can't swim. So to be able to swim and swim really well, I don't know, that might be kind of cool. Okay, do you want to ask the next question, Ellen?
Sure. The next question is science or art more essential to humanity?
Uh-oh. Let's get this out of the way. Are we all arts majors? I think so, eh?
No,
No?
I'm a biology
You're a
major.
biology major. Okay, so we've got both
Let's
sides
look
of
at
the
this
debate.
scientifically. If you took out art from the world, what would you be left with?
Numbers.
A whole bunch of people who did things really efficiently until they went crazy because they weren't taking care of their emotional lives and killed each other or themselves. If you took out science, I don't know if anything would ever get done. I think things would get done just in a very free-form way.
I think we'd go back a couple generations. It'd be more like back
But isn't,
18th, 19th century.
like relating to the previous
In a
question, wouldn't that be okay in some ways?
I think it might be okay. I think people today wouldn't be okay with it because we've been so, in a sense, spoiled. We have all of this technology and all of these great developments that the sciences have given us.
Oh,
I don't
yeah.
think people would be willing to give them up.
They wouldn't do it willingly. We'd have to take it from them, and then people would sit around for the next 100 years being like, man, remember cell phone? They were awesome.
Yeah, remember Facebook?
That
Remember
was-
Twitter?
You know, I'm kind of starting to forget. What wasn't it? Like you went onto like a computer and then you what?
But I kind of wonder again, after like our generation died off and like our kids and our grandkids grew up, they'd probably be making so much fun of us. Like, haha, look at grandma and grandpa. They locked themselves up in a dark room staring at a box all day. How lame is that? Look at us. We're outside. We're climbing Mount Everest. I don't know, whatever they're out doing at the time.
Virtual class.
Well, if the zombie apocalypse happens, then they're gonna be like so skilled at surviving outside, if they survive. Like, man, I climbed over this pile of dead bodies and I figured out how to jimmy open this abandoned warehouse.
So we'll be doing the same things, but because, I mean, aren't there zombies in video games now? So, like, we are going to be fighting them through a screen, and
Right.
they're going to be fighting them in real life. Man, I feel pathetic, okay?
I hope they'll be fighting things through a screen. Or like loving what?
Are
Not
you
in-
ready for the zombie apocalypse?
Me? Probably not. No. I wouldn't know the first thing to do. I think there's some sort of dance that they do.
I'd want to try to make friends with them to see if I could get around it that way. That'd be my strategy.
I don't know what I would do in that situation.
Because I think fighting would be futile.
I think I would probably track if I took some sort of drug. You know, probably go get tested, see if it was actually happening.
You know, I had read one article a while back, and it was about this kind of topic, like the sciences versus the arts and the humanities. And the whole point of this article is that we have the humanities because we're human. And I really liked that, not just because of the clever title, but it says a lot, and I think you were totally right. The humanities and the arts are important because it keeps us in touch with our human side. We were fine way back when we didn't have as much science in our lives. We did things slowly in comparison to what we have now, but we got there and we created all sorts of amazing pieces of art and literature and great
But people
things.
only lived to be like 30 years old back when they were making the best art and literature. Okay, like
Also, historically,
50.
sorry to interrupt, but historically women were treated very badly.
like science came about in response to needs that we had, like vaccinations and all kinds of advancements in medicine came about because we were dying. And like, yes, we made beautiful art, and I do also romanticize a time before we had so much technology, but I also have to give props to the fact that my lifespan is what, like 80?
And I agree with you. You're right. The only problem that we sometimes have, and I get that this isn't for everyone, is that we have long lives, but they're not always the best quality of life either. You have a lot of people who now are developing these terminal illnesses where they spend years of their lives either in a hospital bed or getting themselves to that point. And you kind of wonder about that whole quality versus quantity, what you'd rather have.
Yeah, I talked to a girl once who made a very good point. You know, she talked about how she didn't have a job anymore, and that kind of sucked because she didn't have money to go out and drink. But also, when she had a job, she had to work more hours to make more money to go out and drink more, to forget about how many hours she'd worked. So it's about quality over quantity a lot of the time. If you enjoy those years because you have less of them maybe, or because you have to work harder, like being spoiled, I think, is bad for us, right? Like we take up recreational drugs, and we take up like lounging around, and the richest people, the people in the lap of luxury are the most unhealthy, I think. No, that would be the poor, with the malnutrition and everything.
Yeah, I agree though on some level. I think people need to be able to work for things. Having everything given is not always, it's a motivation killer, I think. So on some level, that does apply quite extensively, but I think like even within a parameter of people having what they need, and like even luxuries, if their life is such that they actually have to work and have to experience upward mobility, then they should be mentally healthy. But yeah, definitely, I guess Maslow's hierarchy is what to look for. So yeah, when you have your basic needs and you have that sort of ability to strive and keep moving, then that's probably the best. In regards to art, you know, I think about this a lot. Like I take scientists and engineers and people like that very, very seriously. Like I'm fascinated by them. But then I watch their behavior, and these people who are like super intelligent, and they can read these amazing studies and they can do these incredible things, come home to their husbands or wives, and they turn on the TV and they watch something like Breaking Bad, or they watch a movie, or they listen to music, and it's like they come home to art, you know. And it's just like I hear a lot of people downplay art, you know, like you won't get a job, or like, you know, everybody's a musician, everybody's an artist, everybody's a photographer, da da da. But at the same time, like everybody comes home and they enjoy, for the most part, some form of art. So it's just such a big thing in culture, and yet it's downplayed a lot, which I don't like. It's kind of a weird.
That's a really good point.
No, I really agree. Yeah, I don't know too many people who go home and keep doing physics equations and such just for fun.
Yeah, and even still, at some point, they're like, okay, like I need a break, and that's
Yeah.
when they enjoy music. Yeah, so it's kind of a necessary component to being a human being, like you were saying. So I don't know. Just thought. Next question. Do you live more in the past, present, or future? That's a good question.
I know what I should answer, I know what I want to answer, and I know what I do. And they're all different, you know? I know that there are so many times where I want to live, part of me wants to live in the future, part of me wants to plan to always be prepared so that when the present comes, I'm ready. But the problem with that, of course, is when you do that too often, you miss the present. Part of me sometimes finds myself caught up in the past, you know, especially I find when people make mistakes, we always dwell on the past when it's a mistake, and that of course is never good either. But sometimes it's so hard to keep track of the present because it's there, and sometimes we take it for granted, we find it boring, and we don't really realize how great the present is until it's already the past.
That's very existentialist of you.
I read a quote that said, "Depression is living in the past and anxiety is living in the future." And I would say that those are probably usually true, although people who lived completely in the present, like Jack Kerouac, didn't really make much of their present after a while because they weren't, I think, like you were alluding to, it's a balance. Like, you have to consider the consequences of your actions in the present, and to do that you have to tally up what's happened and do a risk benefits analysis based on your past events. And I can't really answer for myself. I try to do all three.
I have a tendency to refer to the past quite a bit, but currently I'm so busy that I don't have time to reflect on anything. So present would be the way. And the future, because I'm always stressed out about what is happening. So I guess I'm all over the place. It gets confusing. That's why I drink. No, I'm kidding.
And I think that's a really good point, though. I think a lot of us feel like we're all over the place, but we never want to come across that way to anybody else. And I think that's something that a lot of people worry about, is that they're all over the place. So I guess for everyone watching this out there, we're your witnesses now. You guys aren't alone. We're all over the place, and we're all obsessing about what's coming up in the future. So it's okay. We're with you. Keep going.
Thank you. Alright, I think